Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to the first episode of Baseball Adjacent. I am your host, Taco Josh, and I am here with my good friend Justin Arth, aka Arth Vader. And this is our new podcast. We're going to talk everything that's baseball adjacent to baseball. And that is the name that we have come up with, and we're going to keep that name until we get a cease and desist from somebody. So
Absolutely.
I'm excited. Justin, how are you feeling?
I'm feeling excited. I mean, hey, we're recording this on May 13th, and the Braves have also won and finally got to 500 for the first time. So I think I'm just as excited about this podcast as the Braves hitting 500, which, per the jerseys, I don't know if you can see them in the background and the hat. I'm a huge Braves fan. So if I'm excited about that, I'm just as excited about this podcast.
That's true. I think it's going to be great. We're just two baseball fans, pretty big baseball fans. I feel comfortable saying, and we're just going to talk some baseball. Anything baseball adjacent. That could be, I guess, potentially college baseball at points. It could be uniforms. It's mostly just going to be baseball and the players on the field, but we'll leave it open to anything baseball adjacent. So hit subscribe or follow wherever it is you are watching this. But let's not waste any more time and let's get into our first segment of the show, and it is going to be winners and losers. This, I guess, because we're late into the season, will in general be of the week, but we're going to do for the first 6 weeks of the season for the purposes of today. So Justin, why don't you go first? Who's your biggest winner from early in the year?
So I've got three different winners. So where do I begin? I think for me, I'm actually going to kind of start with something overarching in baseball. I think stolen bases are a huge winner in baseball. Finally, the rule changes with the disengagements, the base sizes, the pitch clock, all that has finally kind of come into fruition here with baseball. We had a .51 steals per game back in 2022, obviously before all that rule change. 2024 last year jumped up zero point 0.2 points to a .71, but this year we're sitting here at a .84 stolen bases a game, which is just under one a game. So that gets a lot more guys chances at stolen bases. As you guys know, or as you will know, I am a huge Braves fan. If Austin Riley is stealing bases, I think stolen bases are back in baseball. So huge win for stolen bases in baseball the first 6 weeks of the season, and we got to see how it continues to go from there. But I think my huge winner in terms of teams, San Francisco Giants. I personally thought they were going to be the second worst team in the National League West. I mean, they technically are, according to standings, but they're only a game and a half off from the Los Angeles Dodgers in first place. And that team is pitching well behind Logan Webb and the rest of their staff there. Jung-Hoo Lee is on to a great sophomore season in this Major League Baseball season. That offense is firing all cylinders. And that team can be dangerous, and it's making me as a Braves fan feel like, hey, like we really got to turn this thing even into another gear to even be in the playoff race with how well the San Francisco Giants are playing right now. And then my final guy, it's a player. I could go with several. I could go with Aaron Judge. I could go with Max Fried as a pitcher. Like I could go a lot of different ways. But I'm going to go ahead and give some love to the Athletics, the Sacramento A's, if we're allowed to call them that. I'm going with
Okay.
Tyler Soderstrom for his first 6 weeks of the year. The stats up till April 30th say 31 games, 296 batting average, with a two, with excuse me, yeah, 296 batting average and a 296, or I think it was actually 306 BABIP, 9 homers, 24 RBIs. The dude just came up to Sacramento or to the athletics organization and just completely started balling, living up to that prospect pedigree. And hey, you put Brent Rooker on that team, you got Lawrence Butler on that team. This offense is really starting to click, and maybe you have something with the athletics. And Tyler Soderstrom is one of those guys that's really pushing that ship and making them score runs and being a lot more relevant than they have over the last maybe 2 or 3 years.
I will say the A's like top end talent is there. Obviously, with Jacob Wilson's broken out this year, you have Nick Kurtz over at first base. You have a lot of things going right for the now Sacramento Athletics. I do wonder about the depth for them, but for sure, a winner early in the season. I don't think anybody reasonably would have expected this. I know the ballpark is helping the offense. Bet the over if you're a gambler.
It's the
Uh,
closest you can really get to Colorado anywhere else.
yeah, I mean the balls are flying. If you're winning a game out there, you're probably scoring double-digit runs. I'll give you just a quick loser who's actually one of your winners in a weird backwards way. I'll go one of my losers. The Giants are like
Okay.
third place in the NL West. They'd be like the second best record in the American League. Just tough placement for them. And for that reason, they're kind of killing it. Like you said, they're hitting well. They're kind of pitching pretty well. They're spinning it. And they just have the unfortunate reality of they're in the same division as the Dodgers and the Padres, who are kind of crushing it at this point. So I just wanted to throw
Absolutely.
that out there. They're a weird spot for me. I won't lie to you. The team is there. They're just in a brutal division right now, kind of.
Well, that's why I'm glad the Braves are no longer in the NL West.
Yeah, I mean, I would too at this point. I'll give you a couple of my winners from early in the year. First, we have to go to the dark, dark place that is Denver, Colorado. They have a man that kind of torched your Braves, I understand,
It
last
did.
week, 2 weeks ago. Kind of torching the Rangers right now, if we're all honest with ourselves. Uh, and it is Colorado's catcher slash, I guess, corner outfield slash first baseman. We're going to call him a utility guy. His name's Hunter Goodman. Through 39 games this year, he's hitting 294. He's got 6 homers. Some of that is Coors, sure. Uh, but he has been hitting extremely well. A 127 OPS plus, he's 27% better than average, which is not like a perfect stat, obviously, but it gives you a nice look at he's having a good season. He's having a good year. He's accumulated zero point 0.7 WAR through, I guess, a quarter ish of the season. My other winner, this is one I'd love to hear your thoughts about as well.
Okay.
Javi Baez really turning it around. I won't say he is not. Okay, he is not one of the best players in the majors. However, the turnaround from last year, 2 years ago, to today, uh, very good. He's hitting 313 this year somehow, which I don't think we ever thought we'd see a year above 250 again from him.
Yeah, if I
So if
saw a 250 year out of Javi Baez, I'm like, hey, the Detroit Tigers are getting something out of that contract.
Yeah, so he's really turned it on. He's playing a lot of center field lately, which I think is kind of weird, but maybe it's a new challenge for him. Maybe it's turned him around a little bit. I am in no way saying one of the best players in the major leagues. He's having himself a nice year. Thought I'd shout him out. He's got a 130 OPS plus. He's at 1.7 WAR through the first 33 games of his season, so he's on a nice pace. He's got a legitimate shot to make an all-star team here. Uh, just a good season for a team that's really overperformed in Detroit. The team would be a winner as a whole, but I wanted to shout out Javi Baez
Yeah, I mean,
before
Javi
any of
moving
that.
to center field though, like I think that was the switch that might have needed to or not might have needed that him switching to center field was what really gave him that mental reset, I think. But then just quick note on Hunter Goodman because I pulled up the Baseball Savant page. I already saw this with my eyes in that Brave series, but he's 78th percentile in hard hit percentage, 84th percentile in bat speed. He's an 83rd percentile in batting run value. And heck, from his catching standpoint, because the Rockies, even though he can play corner outfield, and can play first base. And I think he's maybe even played third base maybe once in his life. The dude's been playing catcher most of this season for the Rockies, with Stallings not really playing at all. But his caught stealing percentage is a +1, which is 78th percentile there too, and he's fast for a catcher with a 27.8 feet per second, so or meters per second, whatever the official. I think it's feet per second. But either way, like the dude's in the red in a lot of major categories with bat speed and exit velo, things like that. Um, so he's really doing some good things for the Colorado Rockies, and unfortunately, like Colorado may be worse than the White Sox were last year, and that's saying something because they were the worst team of all time.
Yeah, the Rockies may not win 40 games. It's bad. It's a bad baseball experience for them. I know they just lost to the Padres 21 nothing, I think, last week as we record this. Not a
Yep.
great look. I'll give you one more loser because I like to be a hater. And this is not piling on to the threats that this guy was evidently receiving on social media. Be better society. But Lance McCullers got bounced 1 inning into his start against Cincinnati last week. I think he allowed
Yep.
7 earned, recorded 1 out. The Reds put up 10 in the first. The Reds, sneaky, very annoying. I'm sure it's very annoying to be a Reds fan. You have all the tools there. Sometimes they hit, a lot of times they don't. The pitching's pretty much
strikeout rate
there.
is strikeout rate is huge for them. Any starting pitcher, if anybody does fantasy baseball, start the strikeout caliber pitcher, like a pitcher with strikeout stuff, against the Reds. Trust me, I did it last week. It won me my fantasy week.
Yeah, it's a tough scene out there in Cincinnati for a lot of time, but they did have a nice inning against Houston. Houston, of course, I think is bouncing back as we record this tonight against the Royals. Uh, and speaking of winners of late, we wanted to take some time to talk specifically about the Twins and the Cardinals because those two teams, kind of out of nowhere, I would say, are having a nice last 10 games. The Twins are 8-2 in their last 10. The Cardinals are 9-1. Royals fans, you're going to say, what about us? We're 8-2, and that is true. However, that is more expected than it is of the Twins and Cards. We'll talk about y'all in a future episode, I'm sure. But I want to give the Twins some time while they're around and competent-ish. So I think we have some notes here. The Twins are pitching pretty well. They're fourth in team ERA this year,
Hmm.
and they are eighth in strikeouts. Buxton's been staying on the field. That feels like that's been making a big difference. What do you got on the Twins, Justin?
Yeah, so funny enough, I'm never gonna call myself a Twins fan, but I will always be a Twins like closet supporter because of my ties of my dad's hometown in St. Paul, Minnesota. So I do tend to follow the Twins maybe a bit more and things like that. But either way, like going into this season, we say this all the time about the Minnesota Twins, and we've said this for 5, 6 years. On paper, their team is the best team on paper in the American League Central year in, year out. 5 years running, they should dominate the AL Central and go through. And they're a team that has at least 4 or 5 when healthy, at least 4 quality starting pitchers. Pablo Lopez, Joe Ryan, and other company with their team there. Bailey Ober's new this year, or
Yep.
maybe not new this year, but Bailey Ober's in that rotation and performing fairly well. And that bullpen on paper, again, looks to be one of the better bullpens in baseball. So you'd want to say this team pitches well when you have Byron Buxton healthy, when you have Royce Lewis healthy, and you've got other guys in that lineup like Orion Jeffers and some of these other guys who have baseball cards. They've done well offensively in their careers. This is a team that it's like, okay, they should run the AL Central every single year, regardless of how Cleveland's doing with their low budget poverty franchise. So it's like on paper, they should be good, but then it never materializes. The pitching and this resurgence is exactly how we've expected it. A lot of their like beginning part of the season struggles was a little bit of health on offense. I know they were missing a couple key players to start the year, like Royce Lewis was out for maybe the first 4 or so weeks of the season. A
Yep.
couple other guys there too. So like Luke Keschall and other guys got MLB debuts. But I mean, this team starting pitching really good. The bullpen was letting them down. They were blowing games. And Carlos Correa, man, like I didn't get to share losers, but Carlos Correa would have been one of my big three losers. The dude is not playing well concerning that contract he's got in Minnesota. But when you get Byron Buxton back, when you get Royce Lewis back, when you get Brooks Lee back, another player that missed some time for the Twins, these guys can hit. They're starting to hit. As long as those guys stay healthy, I can see this being again, as a Braves fan, something similar to the 2024 Atlanta Braves. That the pitching's so good, you'll find yourself in the playoff race, and hopefully you get into the playoffs with how good the pitching is. But this offense is probably what's going to hold it back, especially if injuries keep Buxton and Royce Lewis off the field. If those two can stay healthy and play 140, play 135, maybe 145 if you're really trying to push it, like these guys can carry the team into the playoffs. Now, how deep do they go is the real question. But pitching typically wins in the playoffs, and the Minnesota Twins have one of the kind of sneaky good starting fives in the rotation when healthy, so they can compete with anybody in the American League.
Yeah, I'll give you another thing here on the Twins. They are kind of killing it at home. They're 15-6 at home. Now, a lot of that is the win streak they just went on, and they had another like 5-game win streak before they lost 4 in a row. Real streaky team out there. The downside for Minnesota that we can look to here is they're 6-14 on the road. And that just is not great. There's no real great way to spin that. 15-6, kind of awesome. 6-14, kind of terrible. That puts you one above 500 as we record this. It is. They're still very firmly in fourth place in the AL Central, but did get you closer to third place, which is the Kansas City Royals, who we were talking about earlier. I want to go back to Buxton for a second. He has not played his most played season is 140 games, and that was back in 2017. So we really haven't seen a healthy Buxton at all in his career.
Yep.
Uh, even in 2022, 2023, 2024. I mean, he's only had 2 seasons in his career that he's played over 100 games. Not a lot of seasons where he's played even over 90. Uh, you hope, obviously, that this is the year where that turns around. I hope I'm not jinxing this. That would be an all-time jinx by me. But I don't know. Do you think this is the year we get a full season of Buxton, or at least we'll say like 120 games?
So I would lean on the side of positivity and say I think there's a legitimate chance. So the conversation in Minnesota over the last maybe 3 years with Buxton and his health is how do we keep him healthy? How do we keep him in the lineup? But his glove is so good. He is a Gold Glove caliber center fielder out there, and you need him in the field as well. Obviously, he's not like a Michael Harris level fielder, but he's like that half a step down. Like he's still a Gold Glove caliber center fielder. So you got to keep them in center field. The good thing is they have guys like Trevor Larnach. They have guys like Walker Jenkins, who's coming up through the minor leagues, and they've got Harrison Bader on the team this year, and some other outfielders that should be everyday outfielders. The caliber of player that they are should be starting every day. And you could get those guys in the lineup, and with that kind of 4-man outfield that are 4 starting caliber guys, you can rotate through DH and give Buxton a day at DH, but keep him in the lineup. And so the hope for Minnesota is keeping him fresh as much as possible to where the hamstrings, the Achilles, the knee, all that kind of stuff that's kind of always bothered him. I think there's been some shoulder stuff in there too, but
Yeah.
making sure that the bottom half of his body that's probably more susceptible to injury doesn't happen. I'm going to err on the side of I'm positive. I think he plays 130, 135 games this year, but Minnesota does have to be on that side of it. But I'll even pose this question. Minnesota does have, or the Twins in particular, do have some ownership questions. The team might be up for sale. They've got financial issues. due to the TV rights of what's now FanDuel Sports, was Bally Sports, kind of leaving them high and dry. With them being as hot as they are they still maybe sellers at the deadline to get rid of a piece like Joe Ryan or a Pablo Lopez or a piece here or there, being as far out of it as they are, even with as hot as they are?
I really think, and this is going to be such a lame cop out answer, I think it's going to be a time will tell. I don't think we'll be able to tell right now. I just don't. I think, uh, in theory, I have to think now with the added wild card stuff, teams are more incentivized to kind of go for it, right? To kind of at least hold your position, say get into the wild card. Because once you get into the wild card, I mean,
Yeah.
anything can happen. We saw, I'm a little
Last couple
biased.
World Series winners. You just got to get in the show.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a little biased, but the Rangers won the World Series. They beat Tampa Bay in the wild card round. Atlanta's a wild card team. Arizona that year was, I think, the last team in the
Yeah.
NL. So I mean, I would like to think if you're Minnesota and you're the front office and your ownership, even if you're going to sell the team, you would at least think about holding to give yourself a shot at getting it. Uh, I don't know that that's like go out and buy, go out and get you a big bat or a big arm, whatever you feel you need, or a bullpen piece. But I would like to think that they would at least hold the pieces they have, maybe add a role player, maybe they get rid of a role player to get a prospect. Who's to say? I have to think they would at least hold, but I don't know that you're buying, at least in the position they're in right now, with how far back they are and how strong that division wound up being. The Tigers are crazy. The Royals are pretty good. The Guardians are like kind of there. I don't know how. They look terrible every time I watch them, but they're pulling out 1 run wins like there's no tomorrow.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I have to think you at least hold if you're Minnesota and you think you have a shot.
Yep.
Let's move on to the other part of this. St. Louis, the NL Central. The Cardinals, they're pitching okay. They're hitting well. They're putting the ball in play. They're not super striking out a lot. It's kind of some old school ball. They're top 10% in not striking out in the majors right now. Uh, Arenado's kind of okay, it looks like. Remember when we were talking about trading him to like the Yankees or something? Remember when
Yeah.
he
I
was going
still
to be
think
the
he
Red
gets
Sox
traded. Hot
pickup?
take.
Uh, it's interesting out there. Justin, they're 9-1 in their last 10. They're the hottest team in the majors. What do you got for me?
Man, I love Matthew Liberatore. Let me say that first. He's on my fantasy team in baseball, and he is giving me some wins and bouncing back. So my fantasy team is like the Atlanta Braves. We started like 0-2, then we got back to 1-2, couldn't get to 500. Now we're over it at 4-3 this week as we currently speak. And Matthew Liberatore coming on over the last 2 or so weeks is part of the reason with this Cardinals hot streak. But Wilson Contreras moving to first base, being able to take some of the strain off of his body. The offense has taken a huge leap. Nolan Arenado, like you said, Josh, he's balling right now. I personally still think he gets traded because I think the Cardinals realize they're not really in a competitive window and they need to get what they can get. But besides right field, because right field seems to be a huge problem for him, Jordan Walker's not playing well. Anybody they put in right field's not playing well for him. But outside of that, they're getting production out of every guy in that lineup. The pitching staff looks pretty good. Sonny Gray's going good. Like I said, Liberatore's pretty good. And then they got two other guys that are giving you at least some consistent innings, maybe some inconsistent performance where one starts good and the other starts kind of maybe iffy, the next starts kind of bad, and then it kind of cycles back around. But this team's good. I mean, I remember seeing them in Atlanta. I was at, I think, 2 of the 3 games of the series because I'm a season ticket holder here with the Braves. Anytime we play the Cardinals, I'm like, okay, Lars Nootbaar, one of my buddies. I don't know Lars personally, but I know his dad, so that's why I'm saying that because he's a coach with us. But I always feel like Lars is going to beat us. I always feel like that team with the infield fly rule back in 2012 is going to always haunt me. But still, like they play really solid fundamental baseball. Feels kind of old schooly when you watch them, but they're right now being able to get the job done, and I think they can compete with almost anybody just with this kind of scrappy nature they've got going on right now.
Yeah, it's a real interesting team construction. They're kind of being led by Brendan Donovan of all people. I know, the meme for a while is every Cardinals player is the same guy. They had Donovan, they had Nootbaar, they had, all of these the same people. They have Alec Burleson, Nolan Gorman. All these guys are the same person. They just get them from a 3D printer. Kind of like how the O's have all the young white guys now. Um, they're kind of being led by Brendan Donovan, hitting 312. He's got a bunch of doubles, 3 homers. It's kind of shocking. He's one of the players of the month, really, if you think about it. I mean, outside of the big obvious names like Bobby Witt, Aaron Judge, I mean, he's in contention in the NL at least, and he's
Yeah.
been one of the bright spots for
If
the
you just go
Cards.
by expectation of the player, like he's one of the few that has completely exceeded expectations from what any of us expected. If you saw a 240 to 250 with two bombs and 12 RBIs and maybe one of those is like a walk-off hit with maybe 5 or 6 stolen bases and accumulating maybe like a .5 WAR, you're looking at that and saying, "Oh, okay, that's a good season for Brendan Donovan." But no,
Yep.
he's hitting over 300 and he's hit one extra bomb than maybe some of us thought about, but he's hitting a bunch of doubles, getting some RBIs. Like the dude in terms of expectations is completely exceeding it right now.
Yeah, and they're kind of bopping as a team. They are second in the league in home runs right now. They're eighth in walks. Like we were talking about earlier, they don't super strike out. Just a good offensive team. The pitching is just okay enough. They're not really punching tickets. They're like 26th out of 30 in the majors and getting strikeouts, but the ERA is there. I mean, it's just a good team, and they're kind of on one lately. They're 9-1
Yep.
in their last 10, like we said. Again, dominating at home, not so great on the road. They're closer. They're 8-13 on the road. They're 15-6 at home, and they've played themselves to a game out of the NL Central against behind the Cubs, who are shockingly hot. But that's a conversation maybe for a different episode. You mentioned an Arenado trade.
I did.
Where would you send him if you're the
Well,
GM?
as a Braves fan, it very pains me so much to do this. But I do think the Max Muncy experiment with the Dodgers needs to end, and there might need to be a swap of sorts to send Nolan Arenado to the Dodgers. Obviously, we know the
Okay.
Dodgers have hit the infinity money glitch in whatever they've done, and with all their deferred contracts and the billions and billions of dollars of contracts they can hand out to people. So they can again absorb that contract. Nolan Arenado gives the Dodgers another bopper, another great defensive third baseman there, and one who's hitting tremendously or more consistent compared to Max Muncy. And then even for the Cardinals, getting a younger Max Muncy, I want to say what, he's 26, 27. I think he's 27.
Yep.
He fits more in the timeline of a lot of this young youth core that the Cardinals kind of have going for him now, and it fits in that window. And a change of scenery for Max Muncy might be positive as well. So, I mean, not to get into the baseball trade value side of things, but there's probably at least another prospect or two going back over from the Dodgers to the Cardinals if that were to happen. But I think it could be a win-win for both teams. Muncy gets a fresh start, kind of like how Gavin Lux has gotten a fresh start away from the Dodgers with Cincinnati and looks fairly good. Um, so get him out of LA. LA fills that third base role with another Gold Glove caliber player that's playing well. That going into spring training, we're like, hey, does this dude even care? Like he wants to be traded. Is he even going to show up and play? Well, the dude's showing up and playing right now, and I think it's playing into the Cardinals' hands where if they want to keep winning, they can. And if they want to trade for Max Muncy and maybe add to this kind of core five that they've got going on, I think they could very well do that and set themselves up to still compete this year, but be even better next year or the year after.
Yep. Chat, I'm about to blow Justin's mind right now. Max Muncy about 200 days older than Nolan Arenado. Fun fact for the
Wow.
folks at home. He does
There we go.
play a lot
Scratch
younger.
everything that I have said. I've always thought Muncy was like 27 or 28.
So Muncy debuted back in 2015 with Oakland, I'm learning. He used to live local to me, actually, in the North Texas area. Used to be a pretty funny bit to send him fan mail, and he would tweet about it angrily. Uh, but yeah, I mean,
Are
I
we
could,
sure this is the right Max Muncy? Because we
yeah,
know there's been
Dodgers
like
Max
3 Max
Muncy.
Muncys to play for Oakland.
Yeah, it's that guy's for sure younger, I think.
Yeah, that one's like 24.
I don't hate an Arenado trade though. I think a fresh start could be good for him. I regardless, Max Muncy or not, I just have a hard time seeing them move off Arenado, especially after they just moved off Goldschmidt, unless they have a minor leaguer that they feel good about just filling right in. I don't know that you'll see like the 1-for-1 swap. I think you would want to get younger, but 34 isn't horribly old. I mean, you kind of figure if things are working in the right direction for Arenado, he's got another 3 years maybe of playing some pretty good third base. Maybe he finishes out with another one or two at first base. He's kind of a cornerstone now that they got rid of Goldschmidt over there. He's the guy along with Mason Wynn. He's a great guy to learn from. I would have to think is in the Cardinals' head. So I don't know. I think regardless, Muncy or return or not, I have a hard time kind of seeing them move, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, and even then, just to propose another one, maybe he ends up in another arch rival of mine with the Philadelphia Phillies because Alec Boehm can't seem to hit a baseball.
Yeah.
But there's a chance that maybe if the Cardinals fall out of the race, like if they go from extremely hot and we jinx them and they're extremely cold, Phillies and Dodgers would be my two teams. I think looking at them.
Yeah. I honestly, yeah, I could see either of those two teams. I'll give you another Phillies trade, which is going to move into our next topic here. Rafi Devers to Philly. The more I think about it, I heard this online somewhere. Devers for Bohm. The Red Sox still kind of need a right-handed bat. It would put Devers back in the field. Bohm's capable of playing first. That's a big thing right now with Cassis out. We don't know if he's what he's going to be when he comes back. Yes, I said Cassis. Sue me. Uh, I don't know. It's an interesting thought experiment. I guess because we haven't talked about Devers, obviously, because it's the first episode of the show. What's your overall take on all of the Devers stuff? All of the, oh, they told me to put the glove away. I'm not going to go play first. Oh, are they going to tell me to play outfield next? How are you feeling, Just?
Man, this thing is a mess from the organizational standpoint to everything that Rafi Devers opens up his mouth and says. I am glad I am not a Boston Red Sox fan. Now, obviously, what can I say? We got the whole Ronald Acuna thing about Snit and benching a player like Kelnick for not running, or not benching Kelnick, but he benched Ronald. So we're not going to get into that. That's off. That's off
Sure,
limits. We
sure,
won't
sure.
talk about that. But either way, it's a mess right now in Boston. The fact that the GM is going to come to you, again, you kind of need to do that if like that's a private conversation and hey, like we want you to be the DH of the Boston Red Sox. You're the next David Ortiz, Big Poppy. Like I get that. Like Bregman playing at third base is probably better than Bregman playing at second, especially when you've got Christian Campbell and Christian Campbell's hitting the way that he is, and
Sure.
you still have Roman Anthony down in the minors that needs to make a debut at some point because he's knocking on the door and really kicking the door down and forcing Boston to play him somewhere.
Yep.
Um, and so I get, hey, we still want to give you at bats, go play DH. But the way both sides have kind of handled it, of hey, you put the glove away, you'll never touch the glove again. You're the DH, and Bregman's third base, and then now an injury happens, and now we're trying to tell you to do this, but we already told you to put the glove away, and now you're going to play first base. I think it's a situation that's just created a huge mess. It's created two people that have odds against each other because I think it's getting personal now. And that's
Yeah.
not what you want for a franchise player. Like I've got a note on Rafi here that says Rafael Devers, other than the shortened COVID season in 2020, has never finished less than second on the Boston Red Sox in total WAR. And that includes last season where he did struggle a bit, but he still recorded a 4.1 WAR despite playing through injuries with both shoulders or in both shoulders. So the thing is, like, he's, I think, mentally checked out at this point, and he's already signed this huge 300 plus $1 million contract for what, 12 years, 14 years, 10 years, something like that. And so he's going to be here long term. It's not a contract that you can move easily. You kind of locks you into, if you are moving him around, it's going to have to be a Philly. It's going to have to be the Dodgers, teams that have huge budgets, the Yankees, but you're not doing that if you're the Boston Red Sox.
Yep.
So you're forcing your hand here of Rafi might want to get out of this mess now, because of how put it odds. Now, since I'm a huge franchise mode player outside of my professional playing career, I'd love to be on the GM seat, things like that. I'll put my GM hat on for a second. You cannot let Rafi Devers leave this building, and you need to not necessarily cater to him or coddle to him, but you need to be able to handle the situation a lot better. You can't let Rafi go, but I think with everything that's been said, you're getting to the point where it's going to have to be within this year, next year, maybe the year after, if you can smooth things over. He's still probably going to request a trade, and we're probably going to see another Mookie Betts type situation in Boston. And Red Sox fans, I don't think, are going to be very happy about that, losing
No.
another franchise player.
Yeah, it's going to be a tough pill to swallow. I will say, though, even mentally checked out, kind of pissed off Rafi Devers, hitting pretty well. He's got an OPS that starts with a 9. He's got a 152 OPS plus. Again, we said not a perfect stat, but okay, especially with the way he started in that opening series against my Texas Rangers. Started like 0 for 12, had 10 Ks.
Yeah, looked like he couldn't even track a ball.
Yeah, one hell of a turnaround for Devers. Now, I am doing some dreaming here on the spot, and this surely will not come back to bite me in the butt here when Justin debunks it. Boston needs a right-handed bat. They need Devers to leave town. They need someone that's probably capable of playing first base without throwing a fit. Give me Arenado maybe to Boston. Just the holdover. I think St. Louis would eat the contract. I think if you're ownership, you're like, we didn't even need to sign a guy. We got rid of dead weight would be how you'd look at Arenado. Not this year, but in the past, he's not been what you've kind of expected. Could that happen? I don't really think so, but it's interesting to think about.
It's definitely interesting to think about, but then the question then becomes, okay, does Bregman move to second and force Campbell out of the lineup, and then where does Roman Anthony go? Because in my personal opinion, if Arenado's on your baseball team, he's playing third base. Like,
Yep.
he's not a first baseman.
No. I would agree. Hard agree. But it's interesting to think about. It's an interesting thought experiment. And again, what would that do to Bregman if he's playing third? Would Bregman then move to second? Then Devers is even more pissed off, but then you don't really care because he's a Cardinal. So it opens up a lot of different possibilities and things to talk about. Just good old fashioned baseball dreaming, baseball entertainment, we'll call it. All right. Well, with that, to kind of wind us down here with the last chunk of our season, we're going to do Players of the Month. And Justin's going to do these every week. We're going to try to do Players of the Week. But again, we're starting late.
We
April
got time
ended.
to make up.
Yeah, Justin's going to do some Players of the Month. Hit us with them, Justin.
All right. So, as you'll see later on, Josh will take the American League whenever we do the Players of the Week. I'll take the National League because my team's in the National League. Josh's main team is in the American League. So, we'll take it from there. But I'm gonna start off with the pitchers. I am a pitching coach, work with a lot of major league and minor league pitchers. So I'm gonna talk about pitching first. And hey, let us know in the comments if you want like a pitching session or something like that, in terms of like us talking about pitching and how things are going. But anyway, Getting on to my American League pitcher of the month. And remember, I took these stats at the end of April 30th, so I'm not including the last 2.5 weeks that has happened since us actually recording currently on May 13th. But in my American League, I've got the former Brave, friend of myself. He's not really a friend. I met him once, though. Max Fried. Hate that he's not in Atlanta anymore, but 37 and two-thirds innings pitched, a 119 ERA with a 3.0 FIP. So obviously getting a little more lucky than good, but a 3.0 FIP is still really good. 5-0 record. It's not a pitching stat, but it's still a good stat when you pitch in Yankee Stadium. Fried is making my Braves pay for not paying him. Wish he was still in the Braves uniform, but he is pitching tremendous with the New York Yankees. The ground ball rate is what we expect. The strikeout rate is actually up from this past year when he was in Atlanta. And then obviously, I say I'm not including the stats after April 30th in this, but the very next start 2 days later after April 30th, he's throwing a no hitter through like 6 innings or 7 innings, something like that, and ends up throwing seven, only giving up one hit or two hits, no runs. And is just completely dominant for the Yankees, where they need him right now with the Garrett Cole injury and Luis Hill injury and other guys in this rotation maybe not performing as well, but the offense kind of picking them up. Max Fried is my American League pitcher of the month. And then in the National League, pains me to say it, I've even seen him pitch live against the Braves earlier this year. But in the National League, I got Yoshinobu Yamamoto. I know I just butchered his last name when I typically don't, but Yoshinobu Yamamoto,
There we
34
go.
innings pitched, a 106 ERA at the time of April 30th. And then, even then, like the 106 ERA is dominant. Well, it's a 2.32 FIP, so he's still under three there, which is amazing. 3-2 ERA, again, wins and losses are not a pitcher stat. But what blows my mind with that is he's averaging up to that point 11.38 Ks per nine. The dude is striking out guys. He's getting full extension on the thing. Hitters are not seeing all the late break. They're striking out at a high clip. And he's balling for the Los Angeles Dodgers. Now, when we get over to the hitting side, let me start in the National League because I think the American League, we already know who that's going to be. In the National League for the first month, as of April 30th, it would change if I took my stats up to now, but I had to give it to Fernando Tatis Jr. That tear, that first month of the season that the San Diego Padres had, obviously I saw them for 4 games on opening weekend when the Braves went out to San Diego. Fernando Tatis was on a complete different level. 29 games played during that first month. A 345 batting average, a 356 BABIP, 8 homers, 18 RBIs, 7 additional stolen bases. He's making huge plays out in the field, out in right field. I want to say he ended up robbing a guy or robbing a couple base hits while he was out there in right field during that stretch. The National League West is competitive. The Padres at one point were atop of the NL West because of what he had done, hitting some walk-off home runs or hitting some walk-off hits, being the tremendous flashy player that he is, but he's backing it up with the stats. And San Diego Padres go where Fernando Tatis does. But obviously, let's end it with all rise Aaron Judge in the American League. The dude is at a complete level that we haven't even seen with Babe Ruth. Through the first month, 31 games, 427 batting average, a 509 BABIP. Like that's insane. 10 homers, 32 RBIs, and he's 90% or higher on every single stat on Baseball Savant. The dude is on a historic tear, and even if I took his stats to now, he's hitting 414 or something like that up to the current day on May 13th. So the dude is flirting with what Luis Ariz typically does every year with hitting over 400, but he's not just hitting over 400, he's hitting bombs just like we know Aaron Judge to be. Aaron Judge, historic tear. And I think even though he plays for a big market team like the Yankees, I think at least in the media right now, he's kind of being treated the way Mike Trout's been treated for the last decade, where he's the best player in baseball. Yeah, I said it. Best player in baseball and not getting the recognition that he truly deserves. Yeah, everyone knows he's a great player, but the dude's performing at a historic level, and that needs to be talked about, even though it is the dreaded Yankees, the evil empire.
That's true. I mean, at what point, Justin, do we begin to talk about Aaron Judge maybe hitting 400? I mean, it's early. I get that. We're what, 40-ish games into the year, 39, something like that, depending on what team you are. But I mean, he's maintained this now for more than a month. You generally start to see the fall off end of April. You know, if you get to April 30, it's a hot month. You get to the middle of May, you might be doing something special. So, at what point do we begin to think about that?
Yeah, I think if the batting average is still over 400 when we hit about mid-June, I think there's a legitimate conversation that needs to be had of saying, "Hey, this dude can really get through the dog days of summer hitting over 400, and we've got a chance here for another triple crown." I know we saw the I know we saw the double triple crown of pitching last year with Skubal and Sale, but we might see another offensive triple crown coming this year with Aaron Judge.
Well, yeah, try to say double, triple crown 3 times fast without breaking character on a podcast, and then you let me know how hard that is. Viewers at home, before you dog Justin too hard.
That's
But
why
don't
it's episode 1. We're getting better with ease. It's been a minute since I've been on podcasts, so we're
we're
working.
working through things, even user error. We're working through. I'll do some hitters and pitchers of the week the last 7 days as we record this. Uh, and we're gonna start with a hitter. And this one's near and dear to Justin's heart. We gotta go Freddie Freeman because I can't just talk about Aaron Judge like he just did. He's hitting 500 in his last 7 games. He's got 14 hits, 3 homers, 12 RBIs, 7 runs scored. His last 7 games. Justin's got what appears to be a bobblehead of him on an ATV humping Chipper Jones. Shout out the Chipper Jones and Joey Logano rivalry. That's a story for a different episode, maybe. But Freddie Freeman, our hitter of the week, on a tear. Now, I will say those games were against Miami and Arizona, so not great pitching is happening there, but 500 is 500. What are you going to do? And my pitcher of the week, I am going to allow myself to be a little bit biased because it gives me the opportunity to without catching too much flack. But our pitcher of the week is Nathan Eovaldi. He's had 2 starts in the last week, one against Boston, one against the best team in the American League, the Detroit Tigers. Combined in those 2 starts, he went 13 innings. He allowed 1 earned run, struck out 14, walked 2. And just overall dominance, he's been pretty good. I won't say Cy Young contender at this point, but he has certainly been a bright spot for a Rangers pitching staff that has needed some because Lord knows we are not hitting the ball well right now. And hopefully that turns around. But just a dominant performance, 1 earned run over 13 innings. Can't argue with that too much, I feel like.
Yeah, I
And
mean those some really good pitchers and hitters of the week, and yeah, again makes me hate that Freddie Freeman is in that Dodger uniform. It's hard to look at it and say it's already been 3 years now.
yeah, if you made it to this point, comment below. Who would your pitcher and hitter of the week be? Did we miss anybody? Did we miss anybody from the first month? Did we miss Jacob Wilson maybe? Who's to say? Not us. That's going to be your job to tell us down in the comments section below. Let us know who we missed. Let us know why we hate your team because that's going to be a common one, I'm sure. Shout out Royals fans. I've been really aggressive to Royals fans today. We'll be nicer next episode. I feel like I'm taking pot shots at y'all, but we're committed now at this point in the episode.
It's okay. I'll say it. Jeff McNeil's overrated. There you go.
Yeah,
Mets fans, come at me.
not a Royal, but a Met for sure. Go at Justin. Get some hate going in the comments, some good old fashioned hate. Last couple of things to talk about, some housekeeping, because this just came out a couple hours ago as we record this. Pete Rose has been reinstated. He just passed away in the last couple of months. And so in a letter today, Rob Manfred reinstated him for Hall of Fame eligibility. He stated people that are dead can no longer pose a threat to baseball. And with that comes back all of the Black Sox players like Shoeless Joe Jackson and everybody else on that team. That opens up the question about the Hall of Fame. I guess we'll stick there in a baseball sense. I know there's a lot of other stuff besides the gambling off the field that is less than stellar. But just in a, well, I guess, what are your overall feelings about this?
I mean, I think Major League Baseball made the right decision. I mean, it's weird to talk about it, but yeah, I mean, when somebody's dead, they don't pose a threat to Major League Baseball anymore. Now, whether or not it was right to ban him in the first place, that's another conversation for another time. But no, I mean, I think at least reinstating the name of Pete Rose, he meant something to baseball. He changed baseball for the better. And even the guys like Shoeless Joe Jackson and all those other guys from the Black Sox, like they still are a part of baseball history. They need to be recognized for it. And it opens up the door now to where we do need to have the conversations of if they're allowed back into the game, if their stats are allowed to be recognized, if they're allowed to be recognized as a player that existed in Major League Baseball, we got to talk about the stats and if it's Hall of Fame worthy. And obviously, for someone like Pete Rose, it's definitely Hall of Fame. But again, that's opening up the can of worms for all the PED guys. But knowing some guys that played in the PED era, everybody was trying to find a leg up, and everybody was doing it. Obviously, not everybody was doing it, but there was a good crop of guys that were doing things because they didn't want to be the one that didn't and then lose a
Sure.
job because of it. So I think you'll end up opening up the can of worms, and baseball's probably not going to want to do that. So they'll continue to straddle the fence as long as possible. But man, I do think that if Pete Rose is reinstated, which he is, I think there's a chance or a good chance that he gets added to the Hall of Fame as one of those inducted members that just kind of happens without all the fanfare, maybe the announcement, but maybe not the official like ceremony. And I think guys like Barry Bonds, things like that, would be the same way. But the question now arises: do they get that ceremony while they're still alive, or do you wait till they're dead and add them in after, like the Pete Rhodes situation probably will turn into? I mean, but anyway, what's your thoughts on it, Josh?
So from strictly a baseball perspective, Hall of Famer. I mean, 4,200 hits. It's damn hard to get 2,000 hits. He doubled that. Uh, I mean, it's a Hall of Fame career on the baseball field. Shockingly, I'm looking at his baseball reference right now. Just one MVP. Maybe would have thought for more. But regardless, I mean, 4,200 hits is a shocking amount of hits over 24 years.
Gambling doesn't get you the hits. You still got to go out there and swing the bat.
No doubt. I will say the thing that kept Pete Rose out of the Hall of Fame, in my opinion, is Pete Rose. I think this whole thing maybe follows a little bit of a different path if he maybe not owns up to it, but takes some amount of responsibility for it. Didn't really do that. And then he wrote a book, and then he kind of did it in the book, but not really, and it was kind of out of spite. I think if he handled it better, obviously, maybe he gets reinstated while he's still alive, maybe then he gets the ceremony. Obviously, there's a lot of other stuff off the field, not just the gambling stuff. Uh, but as far as baseball goes, baseball career in a vacuum, even just the hits column in his stat
That's
page in a
Hall of
vacuum,
Fame.
4,000 hits is a Hall of Fame career. Will he get in? I tend to lean no. I still don't think he will. I think it's nice that he's reinstated, I guess, but I have a hard time seeing him get in at least in the immediate future, even in that like old timers ballot or whatever they call it now that
Yeah.
they vote in after the fact. But I don't know. That's just kind of where I land on it as I think about it. Uh, but we'll see. Time will tell. I think the nearest he can get elected in is 2027, so there will be some amount of time between now and when that would happen. So maybe that'll help the stomaching of things for some of the writers that vote on it. But I don't know. We'll see. He is at best, he's on the fence for me. As to whether or not he will get in, I think I would still vote no because of some of the off the field stuff beyond the gambling. But we'll see. We'll see how we go. And our last housekeeping tip, a little bit of a brighter note. Evan Longoria retired earlier this week. Obviously, a lifelong MLB player. Had close to 2,000 hits, I believe. You would think of him on that Tampa Bay Rays team that was so successful there in the 2010s.
Yep.
Won a Rookie of the Year, wound up in San Francisco, spent some time in Arizona. Great career. Probably not a Hall of Famer. Probably. It would be hard for me to say he's a Hall of Famer. Hall of pretty good. Definitely a memorable guy. Definitely a guy when we're naming baseball players in like 30 years, we'll be like, oh man, you remember Evan Longoria? Everybody will be like, hell yeah, dude, that guy was awesome. Tampa will never forget that home run on the last day of the season to knock Boston out of the playoffs against the Yankees after that big comeback. But I don't know. What are your thoughts on 39-year-old Evan Longoria retiring?
Yeah, well, the streets will never forget the time that he saved that reporter with his bare hand.
That's true.
But anyway, like I mean, Evan Longoria, amazing career. I would say he's Hall of very good. If take my professional football playing career idea into this, I think he's like Eli Manning in a way, where the stats maybe don't say Hall of Fame. But if you really want the Tampa Bay Rays and their short history to have even more relevance in the Hall of Fame, then maybe there's a way that he gets in. But I still don't feel like Longoria truly gets in. But he's definitely having that number 3 officially retired by the Tampa Bay Rays. So he will be a Rays legend. The Rays, regardless of where they end up, whether they stay in Tampa or St. Pete or head to Orlando or wherever they might be going next. And that's another talk about on another podcast. But he's going to be one that the streets remember. Evan Longoria, hell of a career. I love Evan Longoria. There's no reason to hate the man. Great baseball career, and yeah, I mean, what 14 years, 15 years in the big leagues.
Yeah.
Retired officially now, but obviously didn't really play for the last 2 years. And I mean, hey, great career by Longo, and you deserve a hell of a retirement.
Yep. Hats off to him. Just a great career. Not too much about it. Just 342 home runs, 1,900 hits, 58 WAR player, 119 OPS plus. Drove in 1,100 runners. Would love to see the stolen base numbers go up next career here, Evan. It's 58 over 16 years. Not awesome if we're all being honest with ourselves. But you know what? Great career. Had some playoff success. Really did everything you would want in a career, except for maybe win a World Series. Won a Rookie of the Year, won some Gold Gloves, won a Silver Slugger, was an All Star a handful of times. Just a great career. And the face of a franchise even after he left, I feel comfortable saying. So
Yep.
good on you. That's how we are going to end this episode, I believe. Let us know what we missed down in the comment section below. Just to name a random player for them to comment if they made it to the end. We'll pin them. Go.
All right. If you made it to the end of this video, make sure you comment Johan Camargo. That's my guy, Johan Camargo. So let us know, Johan Camargo, in the comments if you made it all the way to the end of this episode 1 of Baseball Adjacent. Obviously, go follow us on all the socials. Once we get those up, those will be down linked in the description. Hit subscribe or hit follow, whatever you're watching us on. We got more Baseball Adjacent videos coming your way. So take a listen. Be on the lookout.
Yeah, way to really land the plane smoothly there, guys. We will catch y'all in the next one. Take it easy. We talk about more baseball stuff. Boy, we suck at ending these, huh? We'll catch y'all
Yeah,
in the
it'll
next
get
one.
better. It'll get better. We'll
Yeah.
figure out something.
It's episode 1. We got room to grow.